You can make a good boss fight out of anything. A turtle, a pig, Fabio, Teddy Roosevelt, whatever this is. But even though what subject you choose isn't that important, there are other rules to follow lying under the surface. Great boss fights have to respect the player's time. Good pacing, engaging fight mechanics, exciting set pieces. Bosses that can capture the player's attention and then reward them for their generosity are the ones that live on in memory after the game is over. Today, I'm talking about 3 more good and bad boss fights that show off repetition, difficulty, and spectacle, and how they are used or misused to respect the player's time. Leave a comment if you've got another boss we should talk about for a future episode. And just FYI, there are a few spoilers ahead. Nothing gratuitous and nothing from any recent games, but we are talking about some major bosses here. So have a spoiler card. No one can say Okami doesn't give you your money's worth. It's a fantastic, fully packed game full of outstanding and climactic bosses. Each third of Okami has a solid plot, good progression, and a grand climactic boss fight, making each third almost feel like its own complete game. The first third ends with an encounter with the 8-headed Orochi. Orochi radiates spectacle and grandness, from his design to how he's portrayed in the cutscenes, and is built up to be a substantial threat through lots of great moments. He's a wonderful villain, and a really underwhelming boss fight. Orochi is a battle full of repetition, tedium, and missed potential. The fight takes place in a circular arena with a chain of 8 pools of sake. Each of Orochi's 8 heads are invulnerable to all attacks thanks to its protective barrier, so you can't win. Just kidding. You go to one of the heads, which will attack you with its respective elemental move. You either use the game's central brush mechanic to counter the elemental attack, or you just dodge it. It's not a big deal. The head finishes attacking and will roar, which lets you use the water spout brush ability to feed the head sake from the pool. Do 2 rounds of that, and you'll incapacitate the head. Now move over and do it again to a different head. And again. And oh wow. It looks like they knew fighting all 8 was boring, so you'll be able to climb on Orochi's back and, smash that bell. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Okay, great. Boss over. That's just phase 1. You can now damage Orochi for real. Now you get to take out every single head. The attack cycle with each head is the same as the first phase, but for some reason, they almost never use their elemental attacks anymore, which were the only unique part of the fight in the first place. Instead, they all just try to bite you and concuss themselves in your general direction. Do the sake thing again and wail on it until the head goes down, for every head. And no cutoffs at 3 this time around. You have to repeat the same cycle for 8 identical head fights. For a character with so much build-up and importance to the story, it's really boring to do roughly the same cycle 11 different times. And also really silly that while you're killing one of the heads, the other 7 just stand around to wait their turn, like Jackie Chan movie mooks. The neighboring heads might do that same bite attack, but to little effect. Orochi is a wasted opportunity at the end of Act 1. And it's ridiculous that it returns in Act 3 as the exact same fight. 2 more times, within a few hours of each other too. In the second fight, Orochi turns gold and reveals his true form, which you beat in exactly the same way. And the third time, the story doesn't even give you the false hope that the fight might be cool. You just do it again as part of a boss rush. That makes 33 almost identical Orochi heads to beat, which should take you a half hour or more to slog your way through. The set of 3 Orochi fights feel like the worst kind of padding, staining a beautiful game by contributing to its lethargic pace. Some bosses, like Orochi, are too rigid for their own good. If a boss fight has only one way to win and only one way to go about winning, that's inherently less interesting than a boss that lets you control how you beat it. Bosses with this problem can be pretty stale on second and third playthroughs, where the player just has to go through the motions to win again, but it can make first run fights disappointing too. We've touched on the good and bad versions of this idea before. In Volume 1, we talked about the battle with the End in Metal Gear Solid 3, and how the many different ways to win brought the fight to life. In Volume 2, we talked about the Iblis fight in Sonic 06, and how the rigid fight formula and timers made the boss miserable. Well, buckle up because we're diving back into the Sonicoverse for another boss. Sonic bosses aren't all Iblis tier disasters. Many classic ones let the player control how the fight structure plays out to some extent. A fight that might be a little slow to beat normally might be much quicker to beat with smart positioning or if you cleverly use momentum. Some bosses might be super easy to blast through if you plan ahead and show up as Supersonic, but the Sonic Mania team has done better. One of my favorite bosses, Sonic Mania's Gachapandora, takes the idea of a customizable path to victory a step further. Sonic Mania is a game built as a tribute to the entire history of the classic games. It reuses, recontextualizes, and remixes the stages, level gimmicks, and characters to build something both familiar and new. The callbacks can get very creative, and Gachapandora might be one of the best ones. It's a literal capsule machine with 8 prizes inside. You've gotta empty the machine to win. The capsule machine doesn't attack you itself, but when you turn the dial, it releases one of 3 possible enemies to go after you. One is a mini version of the flying Eggmobile ripped from Sonic 1. One is the pointy drill car from Sonic 2. And the last one combines 2 different callbacks into a kamikaze robot. Just grab and explode. To defeat Loot Crate, you have to turn the crank 9 times and defeat the mini bosses as you go. The trick is that you can turn that crank as quick as you want. You could play it safe and dispatch one boss at a time, or you could go for broke and keep hammering it, drowning in murderous callbacks. If you know what you're doing, you can take care of them all at once, but it's definitely riskier with so many enemies going after you. Each of the 3 robot types isn't a big deal individually, but they synergize together, covering the air and ground while the kamikaze robot slows you down a little. The fight is way more interesting because of that player-driven customizable difficulty. Letting a player control the difficulty themselves from within the fight is way more engaging than a boss with more HP, or if you had to select hard mode from a menu. Gachapandora is a bit of an anomaly to let you control the pace. Not every boss in Sonic Mania is crafted that well. Some do force you to fight in the same rigid way you did on your first run, but that boss is a good case study for how you can use differing player skill and optimization to create a path for players to engage in a boss fight more deeply. Now, Gachapandora was a unique fight surrounded by a bunch of samey ones, but when a game is all about its boss fights, they're usually all unique, like in Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is 100% pure export quality 24 karat boss fights straight into your veins. Obviously, Capcom put a lot of thought into each battle in every game, but there's a risk that boss fight only games all have. If every single fight played out in broad strokes in the same way, they could start to blend together a bit. So every so often, Monster Hunter adds something qualitatively different to act as a palate cleanser. What if instead of a big monster, you fought a really big monster? Nailed it. Cue the siege monsters. Instead of the usual fight cadence, you're going to take them down through unconventional approaches and special equipment. But the siege monsters have a mixed reputation. They're a drastic change of pace, sure, and that's a worthy goal to aim for, but straying from the tested formula opens the door to missteps if you're not careful. Siege monsters, as huge set-piece fights, have often put more importance on spectacle over solid combat design, and Zorah Magdaros wraps up a lot of the style's problems in one long, meandering boss fight. The first encounter with Zorah has pretty much the same issues, but we'll focus on the final one. The fight is divided into 2 different phases. The first has you climbing on Zorah's back to take out 3 flaming cores at a few map points. But Zorah is the stage, so it's really just a worse reskinned version of mining for materials, with a little lava thrown in there. There's not much danger involved. The terrain might change, but there's nothing you can really do about it, and it just makes navigation a little more annoying. Once you take care of the cores, the second phase begins. Eventually. First, you wait for the fixed timer to count down. You might be waiting for 5 minutes. Oh yeah, and it turns out you didn't even need to go for the cores in the first place. They're just there for crafting materials. What else? Oh, you can fire at stalactites to get them to crash down on Zorah, I guess. That's cool, right? What is it with boss fights and stalactites? Oh, but wait, I forgot the most important part. There's also Nergigante. He's cool. He's on some of the covers. One of the best fights in the game. During the boss. Boss within a boss. Except, you don't have to fight him. He stays in one place since the rest of the map is far too narrow for him. He won't come looking for you, and there's no penalty for ignoring him completely, even though the NPCs say otherwise. Eventually, he leaves. Time for Phase 2. You're placed on top of a massive barrier with cannons and ballistas and ammo to fire at Zorah. He's gonna attack the barrier. Stop him. Oh, he's a-comin'. Yep. Well, you're supposed to arm and fire all of the weaponry while some little flying monsters attack them, but this part of the fight feels really bullet spongy. You're supposed to coordinate the attacks to build up enough DPS to take them out before you can attack the barrier, but slowly going back and forth to load up the cannons gets real tedious. There are flying enemies attacking the cannons, but they don't have great visual indicators when they're under attack until they fall apart from the damage. Man, I don't know if I'm gonna take him down in time. Oh no, he's attacking the wall and... Wait, that's it? The giant lava mountain can't take out a wooden barrier? There goes the sense of urgency. There's one more weapon on the ship underneath, the short-range Dragonator, which does a lot of damage. But really it just feels like a mercy to speed up this fight to the ending. The developers tried really hard to make the Zorah Magdaros fight concept work. Capcom spent a year with a team dedicated full-time to just this fight. There must have been countless iterations and tweaks to try to get the concept of fight this mountain workable. But the end result was one of the series' least popular fights, according to the community. They've gotten the siege monster concept to work with bosses like Kull of Taroth. In that fight, your goal isn't to kill the powerful Elder Dragon, but just to break its golden armor and horns before it escapes. She's a lot larger than your average monster, but not awkwardly ginormous like Zorah. It's a 3-phase fight over multiple chambers where you use a combination of tactics to attack her head-on, siege weapons, and even some environmental traps as it marches through a linear path. The fight has a much more even progression as the monster goes from ignoring you to treating you like a threat, then going all out on you at the end. It's an overall grander fight than the typical monster, which is just the change of pace that these siege fights are supposed to be, but the core gameplay isn't as far off from what had been working in the game up until this point, unlike the total departure we get in the Zorah fight. The Zorah Magdaros fight feels like a slog where you're just wailing on a tiny part of a gigantic damage sponge that acts like you're not even there. Both phases suffer from tedious pacing and keep undercutting the sense of urgency. They wanted this battle to be a spectacle and a technical showpiece where you're scaling a massive beast, but the moment-to-moment situations the fight occurs in makes it hard to appreciate that spectacle. I'm not in awe of this gigantic creature. I'm staring at a rock texture, hoping I don't get knocked off by a sudden plume of lava. The shifting terrain is cool in concept, but it's more of a minor inconvenience that doesn't add a lot to the fight mechanics. The fight with Nergigante being entirely skippable and only able to happen in one small area undercuts what could have been a fun idea. Force waiting for a timer to get to 0 is just about the least exciting thing you could put in a game. The second phase shows off Zorah better, but that spectacle is fleeting. Add all the flair you want, it doesn't make carrying cannonballs back and forth any more fun. What few things that do get in your way are more of a nuisance than a threat. The tempered version of Zorah is tougher with damage scaled up and a much tighter time limit, but that doesn't change any of the fight's fundamental issues. If anything, the shorter time limits just add a layer of frustration to a chore. The Zorah Magdaros fight is incredibly ambitious, but none of the pieces play well with the game's strengths, and its awkward pacing and undercutting of its own built tension are fatal flaws in the finale of the game's main storyline. Speaking of ambitious, that's a wrap for the most ambitious year of Design Doc yet. 15 new videos and tons of new viewers. If this is your first video, or if you've been with the channel since the ancient Let's Play days, we hope we brought some joy to your life this year. From Dan and Mike, thank you for your viewership. And special thanks to our Patreon members, whose support helps make it possible for us to work on the channel full time. If you'd like to support us and gain access to things like early ad-free episodes, voting in future topic polls, and our exclusive behind-the-scenes podcast, click the link in the description to join the Patreon club. With your support, we can make 2021 an even brighter year for Design Doc.